I would like to now introduce my panelists who have given major contributions in the field of education so that they can shed some light on this subject and enlighten us regarding their point of view as to what the problems and the solutions are. And then we can have open discussion. First of all, I would like to invite Dr. Javed Laghari, who is a former founding member of SANA, who has made great contributions to education here through Zebis University and currently is a chairperson of the Higher Education Commission. The next in line is Mr. Chaudhry Faisal Mushtaq, who is CEO for a change in education, which is, I assume, an NGO, and he's also an executive director of the Roots School. The next panelist is Dr. Mohammad Memar. He is the director of the Institute of Education and Development at Aga Khan University. The director of IBS Sakhar, Mr. Nisar Siddiqui. And the final member is Mr. Kaisar Bengali. He is an economist and former advisor to the Chief Minister regarding planning and development. Now, I would like to hand over the discussion to Dr. Javed Laghari, who's going to be the moderator for this session. Dr. Javed Laghari.
We're missing Nisar Siddiqui. Today, right now, we come to a very important session, which is the one on education. The panelists or the speakers, I would say, here have already been introduced. I'm very fussy about timing, so we have got about 75 minutes. So I should give about 10 minutes to 12 minutes per speaker. Please be very punctual, that you can come out here and make a statement. But we would like to focus only on challenges and choices, which is the theme of this conference. 10 to 12 minutes per speaker, and then we will leave the forum open for discussion. But out here, about 2 weeks back, well, actually on 30th of December, in the newspaper from Karachi, I wrote an article that was called "We Are Killing Education." And I'll read a paragraph from here, roughly, that says, Pakistan falls significantly behind many countries in literacy and will not be able to achieve the Millennium Development Goal of 100% literacy by 2015. In the last 5 years, literacy has risen only by 3% to 58% and will therefore probably reach 60% by 2015. Of course, I'm looking at a figure for Pakistan. You need to understand. Sindh probably is lower. Rural Sindh is even lower. And female rural Sindh is probably the lowest. So obviously, we are looking at average numbers here, with I'm sure Dr. Kaisar Bengali sitting out here can give us more exact numbers. And then it says education is a sorry state of affairs in Pakistan. The HTI 2001 ranks Pakistan 145 out of 187 countries, shows enrollment ratios for primary and secondary education at 85 and 33%. The Education for All Development Index ranks Pakistan at 118 out of 129. Similarly, the Prosperity Index ranks Pakistan 105 out of 110 countries in the education category. It continues on that says the Pakistan Education Task Force 2010 reports 1/3 of primary age children are not in school. It also reports that 35% of those children who do attend school and make it to grade 3 cannot do a single digit subtraction. On the other hand, a recent study by Aga Khan University, IED, and we have Dr. Memon out here, found that around 70% of the teachers teach for only 15 minutes in a 35-minute period, and 10% teach for less than 5 minutes. The Annual Status of Education Report 2010 shows drastic reduction in school enrollment from 16% in class 1 to 3% in class 10. And that more than half the children surveyed could not even read Urdu or a local language properly. about 4,000 ghost schools exist in Sindh alone. So this is the forum, and I will leave it to the panelists, and we will start off with Mr. Faisal Mushtaq, who actually lives in Islamabad, but they have tried to make a change in Sindh through his NGO called Change, and they are working in Upper Sindh in the Ghotki region, and maybe he would like to share his experience. Roots, let me tell you, is one of the largest chain of schools in Upper Pakistan. About 15,000 students, maybe about 45 schools.
I know, Javed, you're very punctual for time. I just need about a minute of your time. Thank you very much. I am sorry, but we have the Lifetime Achievement Awards that Sana is presenting, as it usually does. And I'll take a minute to introduce our first Lifetime Achievement Award. Lodi Saab is not with us, but he was a great servant of Sindh. He fought the case of Sindh in his official capacity. He used to serve as a most dedicated and honest officer. His support for civil rule and democracy. He resigned in protest against Musharraf's decision to impose illegal NFC formula. We will always remember A.K. Lodhi as the most dedicated Sindhi civil servant. I would now request one of our dedicated Sana members, Mr. Sarfaraz Abbasi, to come and present this award to Mrs. Lodhi. Sarfaraz, can you please? Mrs. Lodhi. Sorry, Javed. Please go ahead.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, the President of Sana, Dr. Waleed Sheikh Saab, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much, Dr. Javed Lagari, the Chairman, Higher Education Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and my dear friends, it is my proud privilege to be here this morning with you and talking about challenges and choices in the field of education all across Sindh. Now, my name is Faisal Mushtaq, and if you refer, my name is actually Chaudhry Faisal Mushtaq. Originally, my grandfather, he hailed from a place called Narowal near Sialkot. But then pre-partition, my grandfather, he did his master's MSc in agriculture from Pune University, and after that, during the land reforms, he settled near Mirpur Khas in Umarkot. So at the very outset, Sindh is not just about Sindhis, it's also about settlers, it's also about people, those who moved in pre-partition and post-partition. And I am an example that my village now is Umarkot, and is a place called Sufi Fakir near Umarkot. And I've always been very proud of my identity. अभी now मेरे नाम के साथ चौधरी फैसल मुश्ताक लगता है, but my identity is Sindhi because मेरा घर सिंधी, मेरा भाई family Sindhi. और फिर later on I was so obsessed by my identity, but nonetheless my father was in the army. हम रहते सारे जिंदगी पंजाब में रहे. I was always so obsessed I ended up marrying a girl from Hyderabad in Sindh. So then for that further restored me. My parents could teach me the language, but living with my wife and she talking to her mother-in-law, I learned the language. My mother-in-law. So मुझे अब पूरी ज़बान भी समझ आ गई, कल्चर भी, और मुझे अपनी आइडेंटिटी पे एज ए सिंधी फ़ख्र महसूस हो गया. उसी तरीके से for the last 25 years we've been working in education, especially primary and secondary education. Primary and secondary education के अंदर पिछली तकरीबन 25 सालों के अंदर we are an authority across Pakistan. And now when the time is to give back, I chose Sindh, and I specifically chose a district called Ghotki, which is Upper Sindh between the border of Punjab and Sindh. And currently my job is basically to improve the quality and the condition of education. Now, sir, education is at an alarming level in Pakistan. You have to understand, we are talking about Dr. Saab has a great vision at Higher Education Commission. They talk about exposure, they talk about entrepreneurship, they talk about innovation, they talk about opportunity, they talk about economy, environment. I mean, how could you have a sustainable economy, employment, job creation, wealth, innovation without having education? And it's not just education or skill development, it's literacy. You need to understand Sindh. I mean, what is the population? Nearly 50 million population, 57% urban population, remaining 43% rural population.